Welcome to the PowerUp Tech Talk. Today we have Terho and Thomas here in the call, and we talk about Power Automate desktop. Awesome that you had time to come and talk about it, Thomas.
Yay, thank you. Hello.
Absolutely, thanks. Hi.
Yeah, let's start with an introduction round. Maybe first a little bit about our new Power Platform community called PowerUp. Thank you, Alicia Mitchum, to give us this awesome logo for this meetup. Really great. But yeah, we will form a new PowerUp meetup group here in Helsinki where we really focus on the Power Platform together with Terho. So looking forward, and stay tuned about more content in that sense. Okay, but Thomas, quickly about you. Who are you?
Hi, so my name is Tomasz Poszytek. I know that my last name is really hard to pronounce.
Yes.
I'm Business Applications MVP. Yes, I know it is. But hey, if you're using the mobile version of LinkedIn, then there is my recording where I just try to pronounce my last name the best way possible. So if you want to learn how to do it, simply navigate to my LinkedIn profile. So I'm Business Applications MVP, and I do work with my Power Platform for over 4 years. And well, basically, I'm just trying to be an expert in whole processes area and business applications area. And if you'd like to find out what I'm currently working on, or my latest contributions, my latest recordings, videos, posts, simply navigate to aka.ms/Poszytek, and there you can find all the social media links to, well, all the channels where you can find me and reach me out.
Yeah, and I understand that you're a racing YouTube star, right? So you just had cracked 600 subscribers on your YouTube channel. Is that correct?
Yes, it's now I broke that number already because right after the awesome Power Platform conference that we had last week, the number of subscribers actually rised. So I'm really thankful for that, and well, still counting on more.
Yeah, of course.
So guys, what about you?
Yeah, so my name is Jussi. That's how you pronounce it. So I have those funny names in the community. But yeah, my name is Jussi. So I'm a partner and community manager at Habit. I also work as a consultant at Cloudriven here in Finland. I'm also a Microsoft MVP since 2013. But my focus is more on change management and user adoption. But I'm very interested in all different types of tech, and RPA is one very interesting topic because it's very new, but it can really change the way how we work. And I want to just know how this tech works so that I can kind of incorporate that in the projects in the future. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. Next to community stuff, I do a lot of, or I used to organize SharePoint Saturdays in Zurich and in Helsinki. And we hope we can get back on the road next year again. But you know the problem, right, Thomas, as well. Yeah, then we have Terho.
Yeah, hi. So my name is Terho Antila. I'm working at Cloudriven in Helsinki area. Lately, I've been working a lot on Power Platform related tasks. I work as an architect or developer in many customer scenarios, covering Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI, virtual agents. So all the cool components of Power Platform.
Yeah, and you have your own blog as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
terhoantila.com if you want to go and take a look.
Yeah, we can link it to the YouTube video description, to the comments. There you can go check it out, and of course also Thomas' video YouTube channel, of course, as well.
Yeah,
but hey,
and there's even a short blog post about Power Automate desktop. So.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, this is why we met, to teach Jussi how to use it.
Exactly. I need guidance.
Sure.
Okay, but hey, let's get started. I'm very curious to see what you guys
All
are.
Right. So let me just begin with a short introduction of what RPA is, so that well, everyone who's watching us knows just this small piece of information, and we can be on the same side. So the RPA actually stands for robotic process automation. This is the really a huge number of tools of products that are available in the market that actually helps companies to record processes and in a way that the user would do them themselves. So it is a recording of what user is clicking on, what user is typing in. So all this interaction between the human and the computer. And well, according to Gartner, this is the most now searched term on their website, which shows how huge interest now there is in this set of tools. And also, Gartner predicts that this that the market for the product is going to be even over $4 billion by 2023, which again shows how much space for the competitors there is. And now speaking about the competition on the market, we currently have those three major leaders. So the UiPath, the Automation Anywhere, and the Blue Prism, that most of the companies and most of us who ever had the RPA term also had as the name of the vendors who are creating this solution. But apart from that, there is really a big space for other competitors. And the tools they offer are sometimes very similar. They are following the same approach to record user interactions with the computer. And what's also important, here we have the company that is called the Softomotive here, which was a very strong performer this year, even beginning of this year. But then in May, Microsoft announced that they acquired this company. And by this acquisition, they gained the whole new set of tools and knowledge on how to create their own RPA.
Yeah. Just as a side note, I mean, these are very big numbers in terms of business opportunities, but I mean, it's not only for the platforms where you can, like for the platforms to business, but think about all the use cases this will bring to organizations by using RPA technology to automate business processes and actually take all this kind of, let's say, boring tasks away from the users, so they can really focus on stuff that actually matters. So very exciting, very exciting. Yeah.
So that's basically what Jussi said. So the RPA is usually used in those processes that companies can identify to be very repeatable, very similar, each execution, very boring or frustrating for their employees. So they can be easily replaced with something automated, and then these employees can actually be moved to something more complex, more demanding. So where the money that we are paying for their work is much more valuable, and then to actually put a bot where the work that they are doing is really repeatable and can be easily replaced. So when talking about the Power Platform actually and Microsoft as a vendor for the RPA, this landscape is a bit different because in Microsoft we also have the whole set of connectors. So when we are thinking about creating a new workflows and new applications, we can actually first try and find if there is an existing connector to the application we want to include in our processes or in our application. Sometimes even if there is no connector already present, we have over 400 of them right now, we can try to use the HTTP connector that helps us to integrate with the solutions that have the REST APIs available. So only if there is no way to actually integrate that piece of our software that we want to put in the logic, we can think of using RPA. So as well, thinking about the processes that we have that we can build on Power Automate, this landscape of automation we can actually use right now is quite wide because we have AI Builder that helps us to automate things like documents, images. We can OCR them, we can create models to recognize patterns, to recognize entities. Then if we'd like to simply automate processes between solutions, between software, we have the Power Automate and the connectors that I have just mentioned. And in case we don't have any kind of interface apart from the UI, so the user interface, we now can use RPA to even put this old legacy, old software into the workflows. What wasn't possible in the days before RPA actually arrived. So again, when thinking about the RPA, apart from that, this is a software to be used to replace all those repeatable and similar processes. This is a software actually that helps as well companies to, let's say, to bridge this gap between this old legacy software that has no interface, that has no API that we can query in our software, in our processes, and our modern processes that we can build and use in Power Platform. So this is where actually Microsoft decided to introduce the UI flows, so the user interface flows next to the regular Power Automate flows.
It's very interesting. So I really like the term hyper automation. So that means really that you have finally the chance to, as you said, to grab all the data from legacy systems and make them use in the new ones. So yeah, it's huge potential here for many different use cases.
Indeed. And so the first thing that we had around those UI flows was back in 2019 during Ignite. Satya Nadella announced that there is this new application or the new software added to Power Platform called UI flows. And back then it was a very simple solution to really automate very simple processes, record just a couple of steps and then put this all together using Power Automate. And then there was a separate application to record the desktop applications, separate to record web applications, because we had to use Selenium IDE. So again, a community-driven browser extension, which was not very useful and not very friendly for the Power users as we are. But what I also mentioned is that in May 2020, Microsoft announced they have acquired Softomotive, so the company behind Win Automation, and by including Win Automation code into the Microsoft know-how, now they can, and they started to build actually their own RPA, the enterprise-ready RPA that is just a single application, desktop application that actually joins automation of web and desktop into a single tool that also lets you to create an advanced logic within just an RPA, so without actually need to split RPA steps and then control them with Power Automate, but you have just a single application to create a very complex workflows just on the RPA level. And well, today, I mean, next one Ignite, I mean, the Ignite this year, so 1 year passed, and this year we had that Microsoft is now ready to announce they have Power Automate Desktop available. So this is the successor of Win Automation. It looks very similar to what Win Automation looked like. It has nearly the same functionalities. Some were removed, some were changed, but in the end, once this tool hits general availability, then I hope Microsoft will also introduce kind of a migration path from Win Automation processes to PAD. And in the end, we can use this tool right now, even though it's still in preview. It really works in a very stable way. I do like the experience of working with this product. So the best thing about this new addition to the Power Platform is that it's really seamlessly integrated. So the flows are not saved locally. They are kept in CDS. They are also integrated with Power Automate. So we have the input and output variables. We can pass parameters to RPA. We can then receive outputs from RPA. So it is really, really integrated with the Power Platform, as all other applications are already integrated.
So was it May that they made the announcement?
Sorry?
Was it May that they made the announcement?
Like, so in May, they announced that they have acquired Win Automation. And I mean, in May, they made it public.
Yeah.
But how
but
much
still,
time
it's quite fast.
It is.
How fast they came up with this Power Automate Desktop. It seems quite already production ready almost. So it's a good job.
Yeah, it was a really, really fast work. So like I was working on RPA in a day labs as well during summertime. And I didn't know actually anything about the Power Automate Desktop back then. And we were just doing all these labs around Win Automation and UI flows and Selenium. And then just like 2 weeks before the Ignite, there was, hey, we just need to update these labs. We need to make changes and then switch over to Power Automate Desktop. So I bet there were people who knew it way more earlier, but we just acknowledged it.
How is the user experience for Power Automate Desktop? I mean, is it like targeted for citizen developers, or is it targeted for people who are even more towards dev than citizen devs?
I would say, yeah. So I would say this is more targeted to power users and citizen developers.
Okay.
I mean, there are actions to let you write like Visual Basic script or C# as well. So you can code something like if you like to code SAP actions, you can actually write code, not just by clicking on the interface.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like with every tool, they have to adopt it. But I find this adoption not that very complex. And even when I started using Win Automation in the first place, then it was somehow like a very straight path to acknowledge where are those controls, how to use the actions, how to work with this interface, and wow.
Yeah.
So I don't find this really difficult and only dev focused.
Okay, cool. Then that's of course very nice.
So, and so maybe the question is, what would you like to, what do you actually need to start working with Power Automate Desktop? So there is actually a set of requirements that the machine has to follow. So, and well, the machine and the user. So first thing is that we need a paid or a trial license for Power Automate Plan. And this is because to trigger the RPA on the Power Platform, we actually need to use this action in Power Automate. So like the Power Automate is this orchestrator that starts RPA processes on the local machines. And the RPA action is premium one. So therefore, we need to have this paid or trial plan. And then we also need to have the...
Sorry, can you actually use the desktop by itself? What do you think?
No, I mean, in Power Automate Desktop, there is like no way to use it as a standalone tool. So the Power Automate Desktop, you can manually trigger it, so you can see how it works locally. But anytime you would like to have this kind of integration from your Power Automate flows, well, then you need to use the action, which is premium. So like with Win Automation, there was a tab that was called triggers, and we were able to actually configure its scheduling trigger, or I think the web request trigger, some sort of. However, here with Power Automate Desktop, since it's all integrated into Power Platform, there is no way to trigger it from the, let's say, cloud side, the different way from the Power Automate. So you have to have a plan. You have to have this license to actually use it. And so then the account that is running on the local machine needs to have the worker school account, the Microsoft account. And this account also have to have the local administrator privileges to be able actually to operate. Then the operating system has to be Windows 10 Pro or higher, or Windows Server. So I saw many questions during the Power Platform conference asking, hey, can we use educational license for Windows or Home? But unfortunately, it's not possible. So this tool is meant for enterprises, and this is not going to work on educational, neither on Home Windows versions. So it has to be the Pro or higher.
So Jussi, I guess you're out of luck with your Mac.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, I mean, it won't work on Mac as well.
Good.
But you can have a virtual machine.
Yeah, virtual machines. Yeah.
So it is working with virtual machines, or on virtual machines. It's also working with virtual desktops. Yeah, so on. Anyway, you also need to have a Microsoft Edge browser or Google Chrome, or Firefox works fine with Power Automate Desktop. And then obviously the environment with Command Data Service, because I said everything from Power Automate Desktop is actually saved into CDS, and there it is being stored. And what is as well obvious you need to have a keyboard and a mouse, so you are able to actually record all these activities that you're doing, so then the bot is able to follow them. But that's not enough. That's not all. So there are also a couple of prerequisites that we need to follow. First, we need to download and install the PowerUp desktop or UI Flows application. So once we do download the installer and start to install, then we are asked if we only want to install the UI Flows, so this old version 1 RPA that Microsoft created, or if you'd like to as well install PowerUp Desktop Preview. Once we do this installation, it will not only install those steps recorded, so the local application, but we'll also install the web extensions, so the browser extensions. So these two, I mean, either of them is required, depending on what scenario you'd like to follow. Then what is also very much required is the on-premises data gateway, which serves or acts in a form of a server. So the gateway actually receives requests from the cloud, then triggers RPA, then receives response from the RPA and sends it back to the cloud. So the gateway is kind of a server on our machine. Then if we would like to use this old approach to create RPAs, so following the UI Flows and Selenium, then we also need to have the Selenium web browser extension. But this time, again, what is important, if you would like to automate Edge, we have to download the Selenium web browser from the Microsoft Web Store, not Google Web Store. Just this small star or hint. And in the end, if some of us would like to try the WinAutomation, see how it looked, how it worked, then this is still available from winautomation.com. We can download this tool and check how it worked. Wow. Right, so that's enough about the prerequisites.
Lot of things to be.
Yeah, but I mean, basically, you just need to have these three first. So, like the first two are covered by the single installer, and then the gateway by the second installer. What is also important is that with the UI Flows, I mean, with the PowerUp desktop, there are updates nearly every month. So to be really up to date and to be with the latest version is a kind of an advice, because with the latest version, we get the latest functionalities and this assurance that the whole integration is going to work. So just this small, again,
speaking of
hint.
versions, what's the general availability for this? Do you know any dates?
I heard, but I have no confirmation that this should be somewhere this year even. So like maybe December or beginning of the next year.
Okay.
All right.
But I don't have this like officially confirmed.
Maybe
This
Christmas
was
present.
just Christmas present.
Yeah.
Right. So just one. It's not the last information that I have, but it's just one important information before we start with the demos. Is that the RPA, and it is appropriate for every RPA we have on the market. It is just sometimes called differently, but the idea is the same. So basically, there are two modes that the RPA can work. The first mode is the attended, which is translated as the simulation of the logged in user, so that the user can simply lay off, grab a coffee or a popcorn and watch how the mouse is moving, how the data is being input into the fields, and actually how the body is working instead of that user. So it is intended to automate those personal processes on the personal computer, and not in the high amount of executions in parallel or daily. This is just the personal automation. And then on the other hand, we have this unattended that can be triggered on the virtual machines. There can be like multiple of those virtual machines running somewhere in Azure or elsewhere. There cannot be an active user session in that approach, in that scenario. And with this unattended, we can actually scale up to hundreds or thousands even running processes in parallel. They're just being executed without our somehow knowledge and our supervision. And this is meant for this enterprise.
I have a licensing question, because I think with UI Flows we had different licensing options.
No.
Depending whether it was attended or unattended.
All right. So the question about licensing, I wanted to talk about it later, but hey, this is the licensing. So basically, the UI flows and the Power Automate desktop are following the same, let's say, guidelines around the licensing. So as said, you need to have first the Power Automate plan, because to trigger the Power Automate desktop or UI flows, you need to have you need to use this premium license, the premium action. So first, you need to have this per user plan or per flow plan, right? Then, if you'd like to use this attended RPA, which is again both valid for UI flows and Power Automate desktop, then you have to either look on the Power Automate per user plan with attended RPA, which is $40 per user per month, or if you would like to automate if you want to use RPA in unattended mode, then you need to go into this unattended RPA add-on, which is $150 per a bot. Then speaking about the bot, in terms in terms of Microsoft, in the definition that Microsoft is using, a bot is a single machine. So then we can have multiple machines running, which each machine requires the same licensing. However, then we can use that machine to actually execute hundreds of processes, actually not in the same time, but well, in a sequence. Nevertheless, we are not paying for each single flow. We are paying per a bot, per machine.
Okay.
Okay, but basically, if you want to scale horizontally and want to run the same flow on different machines, you need separate licenses for each.
Yes, I mean, yes, you're right, but maybe the scenario is that you can like wait until first or previous execution is completed and then the other one is started. So then you can have like a one machine and simply queue these executions. But if you need to run all these executions in parallel, then actually, yes, you need to have multiple machines that can handle those executions in parallel. So even on Windows Server, because on Windows Server we can have, I think that more than one active user session. So actually you can have like one virtual machine and then having multiple RPA sessions. But even in that scenario, you need to have a separate license for each of these active sessions. Okay. So what I want to show you right now is a demo. If you want to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
All right. So I'll just close that one. So the demo is actually about the invoice processing. Okay, my app has switched off. So anyway, it's about it's a PowerUp. Yes, I mean the idea is quite simple. So we have like an accountancy team that is requested to. Sorry, not accountancy. There is a front desk that is requested to simply scan the invoice, and then the invoice is OCR'd by the AI Builder model. And then once this OCR is done, then the front desk can send this invoice for approval, which is then done by the approval is done by the accountancy team in Microsoft Teams channel. Just let me open Teams as well. I hope it will work without any issues. Well, and then it is also using my beloved adaptive cards.
Yeah.
So, right. Well, what could it be differently? I mean, the difference. So it's always adaptive cards. So yes, the video has already recognized all these fields, and well, so I can just send it for approval.
Yeah. Just as a question on the side, Thomas, this recognition of the invoice. Do you need to kind of set it up that beforehand, or how do you train that?
Actually, yes. To use the AI Builder models, you need to create. I mean, today, unfortunately, it works this way that you have to create a separate model per each layout or template of the document you want to be able to recognize, and then you need to upload like 5 different documents following the same layout, so that the model is being trained, and you're able to actually mark which fields you want to read. So this is not the best OCR you can find on the market. So if you have like thousands of templates or vendors that are sending you invoices every month, then obviously this is not the right approach you should take. You should focus on more enterprise OCR tools, like maybe, I don't know, Kofax or
Captiva, or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple, right? But well, for simple.
Well, it's not pretty, but it works.
Yes. for simple scenarios, it's quite fine. So the native card is sent. I mean, it's generated. It contains all the information. So now I can simply hit to approve or reject. Well, if I approve, then what is going to happen is that the invoice is going to be picked up by the RPA. I mean, not the invoice, but the data from the invoice. And the first thing that the RPA is going to do is to convert it from the PLN to USD dollars, because this old CRM that the company is using is actually storing information in currencies in dollars, or the amounts in dollars, and then it's going to trigger this CRM and record information about this new invoice in that CRM. So now I'll just hit approve, and this will take a couple of moments to actually execute the RPA on my machine. So once this edge here, the canary one, is active, it will mean that the RPA is working.
Okay. Is that now a good chance to have some other questions?
Actually, yes.
When I was testing this out, I noticed that I had to have the browser already open, no matter what page it was on, but I had to have the browser open, otherwise the Power Automate desktop gave me an error. Have you bumped into that problem, or is it just me?
So no, I mean, when you're automating browser processes, there is also an action called launch browser or start browser.
I use that.
And usually, I mean, I didn't have any kind of issues with those browser-based processes. The one I had, like, I don't know, maybe yesterday or 2 days ago, was that the browser didn't actually pop up as the first window, the focused one, but it was in the background. And then obviously the RPA failed because it wasn't able to find the fields it should click on, or the DOM elements. But apart from that, no, I didn't encounter any kind of these errors that it wasn't launched.
Well, good. Hopefully it was just me then.
Fingers crossed it won't fail this time. Right. And
have you Thomas ever load tested that already? I mean,
load test.
Yeah, I mean the Power Automate desktop. I mean, you said before about scalability and you need more bot machines and so on. I mean, how much requests could one handle? I mean,
well, obviously one machine can handle one request at a time, so you can just trigger one process at a time. It's like you can't move your mouse in two different locations at the same time.
Yeah, of course, but how fast? I mean.
So I guess it depends on the power of the machine. Then how large applications you can automate, stuff like that.
It won't work faster, for example, than the time that is needed to launch an application, to open an application, and to set it ready.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be much faster as a user.
Yeah.
Because you're always thinking where to click, even if you are doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
But for example, this process that is going to be executed in a minute, I hope, is done like within seconds, which took even more time for me to actually record it when I was doing this manually. So yes, it is obviously done faster than if a user was doing this.
So what if I want to move the Power Automate flow and then the desktop flow to another environment? If I export the parent flow, do I get the UI flow exported as well, or do I have to handle that separately, or how should I do the deployment from one environment to another?
I could show you, but I won't, because if I move now mouse, it can trigger.
Don't touch it.
RPA to fail. All right. So your question was around how to migrate this RPA between the environments, right?
Yeah.
So as I mentioned before, this whole platform is integrated into CDS. So everything that we are actually creating is stored in the command data service. And also, thanks to that, we can actually add all these RPA flows and the controllers of the Power Automate into a single solution. And this way, we can actually create a solution and then export it and import to a different environment.
Okay,
so
cool.
The solution is the answer. And then this is the answer both for the migration, so between the environments, and as well for the versioning. So if you're thinking, or if your customer, for example, is asking, hey, what is the versioning approach in Power Automate Desktop? Then the answer is, again, put this process into solution and simply use the versioning within the solution. So, I mean, it won't work the way that every time you do a change into the flow, it will create a new version. So you have to create the versions manually in solutions, although this way you can actually control the versioning. All right, so now you can see that this is working. Now, first thing it's going to do is to, if the currencies were different, it would change, you replace the currencies with the PLN and USD. And now it's actually triggering the invoicing, and it should, well, enter again the new currency, the new record. So
it's pretty fast.
Yeah.
It's really fast. So, well, this is.
Oh, think about it. The use cases in filling out your time reports when you are a consultant. That you could just, automate all your hour reporting with that.
And also the good thing is that once this Power Automate Desktop is working,
Terho, when can we have it?
It simulates our behavior.
I need your plan mill credentials.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I actually extract the package and then modify something in the UI flow? Is it like JSON or something that's? If I want to do something in the dev pipeline, for example, change something.
So I believe this is also a JSON if you do export it as anything that we have in PowerUp in Power Platform.
Yeah.
But with the modification, with the manual modifications, I would be really very, very careful, because the very much important thing around the Power Automate Desktop is that it stores the selectors of the UI elements from the interface, and then these are sometimes very much machine related. So if you try then to launch the Power Automate Desktop on a different machine, and for example, the keyboard layout is different, or the name of an application of the window is different, then this might not work.
So basically, if you would like to parameterize based on environment, then you should actually pass the parameter to the Power Automate Desktop from the parent flow as a variable input.
Yes, exactly. Right. So I know that we are just like running out of time. I just wanted to show you how you can actually create one on your own. So that's the Power Automate Desktop application, and as said, it's quite similar to the re-automation. Now, when we start to create the new one, then this interface is also somehow following what re-automation had. So that's the interface. On the left, we have all the actions that we can actually put in the designing canvas. So where the flow is being designed. They are really grouped into a lot of, in different groups, depending on what you actually want to automate. There are not only actions related to local machine, but you can as well query like Azure services or Google services. The Azure cloud, AWS cloud. There are cognitive OCR actions. So a lot of things that you can actually use to make these flows really advanced. Then the main area is actually the designer canvas, where you just drag and drop these actions and create the logic. You can split the logic into subflows. So if you have parts of the logic that can be reusable, then you should divide them into subflows like functions in programming language. That makes the flow easier to maintenance and develop. Then on the right-hand side, there are the variables. So they are split into two groups. So the first group is the input-output variables that are being used by the Power Automate. So to pass parameters into the flow and then receive outcomes from the flow. And then the local flow variables, so these that are created by the run of the RPA itself. Next are the UI elements, so all the UI items that are known to the RPA and are being used by the process, so where the flow is clicking, where the flow is inputting data, and as well the list of images that is also being used by the run. So now the process I just wanted to show you is quite simple. So the idea is that the user receives an email, and then the email contains an Excel file which actually holds records, the contact records, contact data. And then this data has to be saved again into this Contoso invoicing application. So here we have these accounts, right? So I do have this small Excel file, and then I would like actually to write down the name and last name to primary contact, then account name as a company, and then contact email. Well, it is also present. So the idea here is to simply iterate over this Excel file and write information to that application. And the idea would be that the application actually is triggered once an email arrives. So then the Power Automate would save the Excel file, for example, to OneDrive, and then the Power Automate desktop would be triggered. So the first action in that scenario would be to wait for a file. So I would be waiting for the file until it is created, but I'm not going to use it now because I will not complete the full scenario. So the first thing I will actually do is to use the Excel and to launch the Excel action, but not with a blank document, but with the one that actually holds these file. So that's the contacts. The one is in use, so I have to close it. All right, so I'll just use the contacts. Okay. And now the next thing I actually have to do is to get these first few rows. So then I will know how many rows are actually present within that instance. And the next thing I want to do is to actually grab maybe it was that one. All right, I think it was that one, or maybe not. This was, yeah, so this was the action I was actually looking for. So I need to get data from Excel file from the range of the cells and columns. So I'll start from the column A and row first, and then end column is going to be like Z, and the end row actually is going to be the one that is first free, so the first free row. However, because this iteration will work like 0, 1, 2, and the first row is going to be 2, but I just want to have actually 2 rows extracted, so I need to subtract it with 1. And then I can as well use the for each loop. So to iterate over the data that I have extracted, so the Excel data. And then in each run of the application, I need actually to create new records. So right now, just to make it a bit faster, I will use the desktop recorder to record all the steps I need to start creating those records. So first I hit the start recording, and then.
Okay, just to understand. So first you kind of prepare the whole thing, and now you record it, and then you kind of did the for each to iterate.
Yes. So now, once you can, as you can see, when I'm just moving my mouse over the application, the UI elements that can actually be identified from the UI by the RPA are highlighted or started with this red border, which means it is aware where I'm actually pointing at.
Cool. Yeah.
Right. So then I will need to loop this new and save in that for each run. So that's actually it, what I actually had to do, so I can finish it. Now, all these steps that I have followed or I've done are going to be present in the RPA as actions. So what I need to do is actually to move these to above the loop. Sorry. And then these inside the loop. What I can do here as well, obviously, is to replace those A's, days, whatever I typed in, with actual values. So what I need to do is to get the current item and then the name was the 0 column. So that's the account, right? That was the first row is the account. So I think it was like the column second in my Excel. And then that was the name and last name. So I have to do this 0 and 1. So this is going to be the first name and last name. And then email was, I think, 5th column. And then save. And last thing I can do is to simply close the window of the application, so of the controls invoices. Sorry, this is the window. What I can add here as well is that once I'm done with the Excel, Excel. Gosh, I have now. Yeah, I can just close it. So once I do reading, I can close it.
Can I have additional branching under the for each loop, actually?
Sorry?
Can I have additional branching under the for each loop? So can I have like subsections with branching, or does it have to be at the top level, all the branching?
No, I mean, so if by branching you mean like you think about the conditionals, for example,
yes,
or switch or
another
any
for
other
each
kind of
loop.
Yes. So you can have all within. I mean, yes, you can put them into the loop. So yeah, I can add here, for example, this if rule so that it creates the branching, and then within that. Good. So the point is that actually you can really do a lot of complex logic within that flow. I hope it won't. Yes. Okay. So either if this is a conditions or if you would like to use a switch, then you're able to actually match all these expressions together. So let me run it and see if this is going to work. It's always this risk.
Yeah, that's the risk when you life hack stuff. Let's see.
And that should be as well pretty fast. So then here on the right, where the flow variables in the right column,
yeah,
you can see that there are already information populated that, for example, the Excel data contains 2 rows.
Right. Cool.
Seems to be working.
Yeah, and it's really fast. So
it's like magic.
If I was right, but
awesome.
then if I was a single user trying to do the same, I would possibly have to do all these alt tabs, so to navigate between
it's much faster.
The Excel file and then the CRM, and just do a lot of more effort than the bot is doing to complete the same task.
Cool.
Right. See, and here, as I said, so you have this information on the right that the current item. Well, it has 26 columns because I said that the first 3 column is Z, but well, it's not a point.
Hey, thanks
I have
for
one question before we finish up. What if I want to run this like nightly on my laptop? Can I leave my laptop locked, or does it have to be like opened? Of course, it needs to be powered on and everything, but.
Right. So it depends on what scenario you'd like to follow. So if you'd like to go into attended mode, then obviously you not only have to have your laptop active, like up and running, but you need to have your user logged in because the attended needs to work on the active user session. Then if you'd like to, I mean, if you could use the unattended, then simply you can create a scheduled flow that triggers the power to my desktop, and you don't need to really care about anything else. I mean, you have to have these the machine running, right? But you don't have to be logged in, and you don't have to have the monitor turned on, or you can just find on Azure virtual machine.
But I was just wondering, because when you lock the desktop, basically the session is still there. Does it happen behind the lock screen?
It cannot be locked. It cannot be locked. It has to be like unlocked, open. It's like one of the approaches you can as well follow is to create a flow that first starts up virtual machine, then triggers RPA on the virtual machine, and then turns off the virtual machine. So, I mean, speaking about the unattended scenario. Last one information about the orchestrating and an unattended approach. So we're discussing about scaling up into like thousands of parallel sessions. So there are like two approaches that we can have there. So when we're installing an on-premises data gateway on the machine, we can either create it as a new gateway instance in Azure, or we can select this checkbox beneath to add it to an existing cluster. If we add this new machine to an existing cluster, then we are creating this network of bots running under the same gateway. And then once the request is coming from the Power Automate desktop action in Power Automate, then this gateway actually is orchestrating, is picking up the bot from the cluster that is available and free and can take on, they can accept job. And then simply, we don't actually need to really care like which machine do we actually want to pass this job to. Then this is the job of the orchestrator.
So that way they can actually run parallel to
yes,
same flows. So
That's
in the parent Power Automate flow, can I actually start the desktop flow in parallel branch? So if I iterate like over 5 records and for each I want to start the Power Automate desktop flow, can I have those started parallel?
In unattended scenario, yes. However, in attended, obviously not, because they will all be sent to the same bot and they will be just queued on the bot. So it will start the next job after it finishes the current one. But in unattended, yes. If you have like 5 machines in a cluster, then you can really send these jobs to 5 machines and have them triggered in parallel. Right.
All right.
Just one last information.
Okay.
If you'd like to start onboarding yourself or the company with RPA, with Microsoft RPA, then I highly encourage you to go to ika.ms/RPA in a day. That is the community-driven effort, Microsoft supervised effort, let's say, that you can download the labs, you can download applications, you can download all the instructions around these labs and training materials. And you can simply do these labs in your own company, or you can just try them on your own. So therefore, you will have a set of scenarios, set of instructions to follow to onboard a bit faster with the RPA. Because I personally learn the most efficiently when I do have a scenario that I can actually create, not just try to figure out, hey, what I could do with that, or try to read documentation, but no, working on a real case study. So this is what the RPA Labs in a day actually gives you.
RPA in a day. On that bombshell, thank you a lot, Tomas. Thank you, Terho,
Thank you
for this super interesting session. So have a great week and hear you next time.
You too, Jussi.
Yes, thank you very much. See ya.
See ya.